Pastor Roy Gearhart from Galloway United Methodist Church in Franklin, Pennsylvania, sharing a few words of encouragement to help us follow after Jesus. This week, we're taking a look at the story of Job. Now, we've been in the book of Genesis up till now, and we'll return there next week. But Job fits this time frame. He fits as a man who would have been living in the same time frame as Abraham, who we'll look at next week. And so we're putting him chronologically into this space. When we look at the story of Job, we see the story of a man who experiences overwhelming suffering and loss. We can all relate to this in our own lives, one way or another, because every single one of us have our own story of suffering or of loss. Job had this on an overwhelming scale. At the beginning of his story, he is a man who is blessed. He has wealth and a large family, but in one day, he loses everything. In one day, all of his wealth is gone, and in one day, his whole family is gone, save his wife. This is a story of loss and pain of a scale that most of us, hopefully, will not experience, but yet, when we experience loss and suffering in our lives, it doesn't have to be on the same scale as someone else for us to relate to them, for us to really understand and feel that sense of connection. And so when we look at the story of Job, we can relate to it. And when we're reading the story of Job, we may be hoping to find some answers for our own needs, for our own life, to help us to understand where God fits into our suffering and our sense of loss and grief, so that we could find hope in God as well. In Job's story, we are introduced to a viewpoint that takes us behind the scenes in heaven, where we see God and angels and Satan interacting. This gives us a sense of the big picture of life, that we can realize then that there is a larger scale of life that our life fits into. That's important for us to recognize and to understand that our experience and our vantage point in life is actually a very small part and a very small window on a much greater scene that is playing out. And in some respects, it gives us a chance to understand better how suffering and adversity come into play, and how it affects us in our purpose and meaning of life. That we can understand from the very beginning the fallout that sin has brought on our lives, that you and I may not have been directly involved in, but we might experience the fallout from. And so that there is a wide scope of things that impact us, and understanding that may give us some perspective on our own particular story. And yet, even understanding that kind of big picture grasp of things and seeing the panoramic view of life, we have our own window that we are looking through. We have our own personal experience that cries out for hope and for help. Wonders, is there anyone out there in all this great cosmos who cares about me? And in the story of Job, we find an answer to that. That at the end of Job's story, God shows up. Throughout Job's story, he's had people telling him that he should give up and just die. He's had other people who have accused him of somehow being at fault and bringing all these problems on himself. At the end of the story, though, his hopes gain a certain fulfillment as God shows up. And what God does is, first of all, makes Job aware of his broad understanding of life and his deep engagement with life. That God is the one who understands all of creation and who is working in every sphere of life. That Job could count on that. And on top of that, this great God has become present to Job personally and immediately. And for Job, it's very humbling. It's also very comforting, because in the midst of all of this, there is one who is great enough to grasp and to engage all of life, who cares about him. And so that when we are looking for someone who cares, like Job, we can find that that one who cares is God. May God bless you today. And as you share this good news, may God make you a blessing wherever he takes you.